Futurama Issue 4. After we see a poster showing Zap asking people to join the army, we see Leela getting told that she's needed for a mission. I like that she's a member of Kif's species. They've been waging a war against Da Nang for reasons they've never been clear about themselves. She says they could defeat them at any time, seeing them as savages, but Nixon's head thinks war is good for the world's economy. Captain Brannigan disappeared in the jungles of Da Nang 4, leaving his helmet. They think he removed his helmet and inhaled the planet's toxic fumes and became delirious. Why would he ever do that? Then a lieutenant had received a transmission from Brannigan where he told Kif he's been crowned the king of a tribe, but ended with him being scared. Why would he be crowned the king? Is this a temporary king arrangement like with Satyam Anchwan and the bikers where they tried to cook him? Are both of those plots going off the same cliche? Because you'd think people would just immediately cut to the chase instead of suffering through waiting on someone they hate. Why does Leela think it's good for him when the end of his transmission showed he was in danger? He explains in his next transmission that he was scared at the end of the first tape because of something that doesn't matter. It's really boring to just look at a bunch of text bubbles while the characters just sit around a table. This must have been done because it was easier to draw. He told Kif to bring Leela to him to be his queen. She's told that they only want her to be a decoy to find out where he is. He knows the dupe's battle plans, so he could give away secrets and attack their forces. Leela's selfish and refuses because she hates Zap so much. The woman's clever and forces Leela's hand by bribing Farnsworth and the crew into agreeing. Kif doesn't want to actually find Zap, and makes a plan to just pretend they looked for him, since he has every reason to hate his boss. He says they could just have a vacation together instead. That's impressively smart of him. Fry doesn't trust Leela enough to resort to flying to a black hole to get away from Zap, and the crew receives the coordinates of Zap on the planet. Leela tells Fry and Bender to stay on the ship, and an explosion scares them into agreeing. Leela's expected to use a hovercraft boat to go down the river because alien forces are all over the jungle, so they'd fire at her from the ground if she flew over it. Kif has to use a special flare to signal Zap, and somehow Fry doesn't recognize it as Leela. Bender's low on fuel, so he wants to go back out there to find some. Somehow Bender fools a robot into thinking that he's bleeding as a robot, and he reveals there's a hose in himself he can spray at will now. Good thing Farnsworth made that possible for him just in case because he was bored. Then Fry falls over with a smile and is told to stay here. Bender is somehow mistaken for the nurse, and he's told to bring some patient's belongings to his family. So he sees the money and gets greedy. After that waste of time, it's amusing that Kif's plans are drawn in the form of kids' drawings when they're as dark as they're sending a grenade at him. Another thing that helps it be charming is that the final panel just has the two of them smiling like nothing happened. Kif tells Leela that they could just lie that they found his bones, and makes it very clear why he hates his boss. I guess he thinks he can't get any other job, even though his boss is clearly breaking the law being so awful to him. Leela says that the fate of an entire army and possibly the human race depends on them bringing Zap home, and her co-workers would get mad at her if they didn't get their $20. They find Zap, and he's prevented from kissing Leela's hand by his own worker for some reason. He thinks he can get away with insulting his own subordinates and says that his birthright is to the crown, because he's delirious. But considering how dumb he usually is, I don't see a difference. She makes sure nothing would happen to Kif for outliving his usefulness by saying she wants him as a servant. And Leela easily manipulates Zap into agreeing. Maybe he hates Kif because he thinks he's spineless. Leela was somehow allowed to wear something other than what Zap wanted, and they're offered some awful looking food. I don't find these aliens' constant running gag dialogue funny, I'm just confused that they talk like that. How is Leela expected to eat without exposing herself to the air? Leela is smart enough to be suspicious of what might be going on here, and Fry's a nap because woken up because an alien wants to get far away from Zap. Predictably, the tribe was only using Zap for a sneak attack on the dupe, And he's telling Fry this because he can't stand serving him anymore. So after my time is wasted by Bender, Fry tells him to take him to their leader. Out of nowhere, Zap says he just wants to sleep tonight because he feels fat, and this is part of the treatment. At least his weird out-of-character behavior is explained because the air is making him delirious. He's gonna be taken away for another treatment. After Leela dodged a bullet there, Fry gets Kev's help, and Leela sees a screen and tells Zap something horrible is growing inside him. The aliens put their spawn in him so they could be sent back to the dupe camp with Zap just when they're ready to be born. So there was actually a very good reason for why he was acting like a pregnant lady with cravings. I guess since they're aliens, it makes sense that even newborn members of the species could be dangerous, because who knows what they'd be like. But it's still very strange that a human would actually be able to carry it, not to mention a non-woman. Of course, Leela only got told this because they plan on finishing her off. Fry shows up with a ray gun telling them to drop their weapons, and they get Zap out of there with a wheelchair and into the ship. And Bender pilots it to fly it away. Zap wakes up at Planet Express's base, and it turns out Zoidberg removed the babies from his stomach. If they were literally in his stomach, they'd get dissolved by his stomach acid. That sure is special alien biology, that the spawn don't get destroyed by it. I'm glad Zoidberg did something competent. But it was building up to the protagonist having to fight a bunch of aliens. He thanks them, not really remembering what happened for some reason, and the story ends. This issue was about Zap being treated like a king by aliens as a trick so that it could be used to hide their spawn somehow, and eventually send it out of him to attack an army. And the crew of Planet Express end up rescuing him because Fry shows up with a ray gun to save Leela. It was disturbing how he treated Leela, as usual.